Washington Post reporter Ed O'Keefe is on Capitol Hill. So, Ed, let's start with the Russian investigation. What our Major Garrett says amounts to more than the Russian salad dressing reference Press Secretary Spicer made. Where does this stand?
I mean, it stands with Nunez still running the House Intelligence Committee and Republicans standing by him. Whether it's Speaker Ryan and other rank-and-file Republicans in the House or Senate Republicans who are just sort of staying out of it, as far as they're concerned, he's still at the top of the committee. But that leaves Democrats, of course, now raising questions about the validity of the investigation that they're doing and whether or not this committee will be able to really function in the coming weeks regarding this issue and all the other things. Remember, this has always been, intelligence matters have usually been a nonpartisan affair. And the concern among Democrats and some Republicans is that this now has just become so embroiled in partisan politics and the issues that Democrats have with the president that it's going to be very difficult for them going forward to investigate the Russia allegations and to keep tabs on what the intelligence community is doing generally in regards to all the different threats facing the United States around the world.
Ed, I also want to get to reports that the Trump administration sought to block Sally Yates from testifying to Congress on Russia, something your paper first reported and the White House says is 100% false. What more do we know?
We know that this is just another wrinkle in the ongoing questions, really, about what exactly the House Intelligence Committee is up to and what exactly the chairman is up to. In this case, it looks like she had gone to the Justice Department and then was kicked over to the White House. And there are suggestions that then the White House stepped in and asked Chairman Nunez to not hold this hearing, or at least all the paperwork was crossing at the same time that the committee suddenly abruptly canceled what was supposed to be an open hearing this week that would have revealed a lot more about what exactly various officials knew regarding Russia's alleged involvement and how the Trump administration was reacting to it. The bottom line, the more that these issues keep popping up, the more that these revelations are brought into public light, the more it ties up this institution up here and really makes it difficult for Democrats to trust Republicans, for Republicans to get any cooperation from Democrats, and just keeps this issue of Russia in the news, top of mind, and it's having a big effect on everything, whether it's next week's vote to confirm Neil Gorsuch to the Supreme Court. You know, there are concerns that many Democrats have that perhaps he shouldn't be picked, at least not right now while an FBI investigation is underway. There's an issue later in April with a spending bill that has to be passed with Democratic support. If there are still concerns about how the president and Republicans are handling the Russia allegations, that could spill into that issue as well, and we could be faced with a government shutdown. So why the White House continues to let this drag out and not just try to get it all out there and ask Republicans to step up and get it done and to make it look as clean and nonpartisan as possible is a big mystery. And it just leads to continued questions about what exactly went on and why they're so concerned about trying to cover up, or at least not be as forthcoming as they could be about what's being investigated.
Meantime, Ed, as you know, the Trump administration is signaling it wants to move forward on its domestic agenda to tax reform and infrastructure. And the administration, of course, needs some victories on the legislative front after health care failed to move forward. It's interesting to hear the president signal that he's open to working with Democrats. What would a successful path to victory on tax reform look like? And is that an area where Democrats feel that there can be common ground on tax reform?
That's the more key question, I think. Look, they have their ideas on it, which involves, frankly, more of a tax burden on the wealthier in this country. And Republicans, of course, have their views, which is predominantly to just cut taxes altogether. Where there would be agreement exactly is unclear. There's been work on this for years. Democrats and Republicans have tried to come to an agreement in the past. The president hasn't necessarily engaged those negotiators in trying to come up with a deal. I think we may learn more, Elaine, after a meeting tonight at the White House where senators, all 100 senators, have been invited to meet with the president and Vice President Pence, essentially have a drink together, maybe find some ways to work together. Obviously, this allows the president and the administration to suggest they're reaching out to Congress. It will allow Democrats who decide to go to say, look, I've gone to the White House, I've tried to find a way to work with them, I've accepted the invitation, and I'm eager to work with the president. You talk to Democrats up here, they'll say, look, whether it's on infrastructure spending, tax reform, healthcare reform, immigration, we are ready, willing, and able to work with the White House and with Republicans. The problem is Republicans never call us back or never reach out to begin with to try to get our support and our buy-in to these different issues. It will be very difficult, for example, if they try to do health care reform again, to find Democrats, especially in the House, that would be willing and see the political benefit in working with this president. Think of it this way, there's 435 seats, only 12 seats held by Democrats are in districts that Trump won last year. That's how divided Congress is right now. So there's really only 12 guys out there who are Democrats in the House, and women, who would have any incentive to work with them. Well, 12 votes isn't necessarily enough if there are dozens of members of the Freedom Caucus, for example, that stood in the way of the bill last week. You wouldn't be able to make up the difference, and even if you did, you know, some of those Democrats might not feel compelled to work with this president, considering how unpopular he is across the country.
Well, let's talk more about health care. After the president said he was basically moving beyond that issue, House Republicans came out of their Tuesday meeting with the message that they want to keep working on repealing the health care law. Beyond just sort of aspirational tones here, is there any kind of real strategy that you can see there?
We're still waiting to sort of suss that out. If there's an appetite to do it, fantastic. Says everyone up here, frankly. But what exactly it'll look like and how it would be different than what was being attempted last week, it remains unclear at this point. I think part of the reason they want to do this is they understand politically that they had made a promise to voters that they would. And so they understand there could be political ramifications next year in all sorts of districts, red and blue, if they don't try to make progress on this. But the second reason is, frankly, they need some of the potential savings and the costs that would come from healthcare reform to get things like tax reform done. They were anticipating about $1 trillion worth of money to move around that would contribute to tax reform that now isn't there, which makes it very difficult to do tax reform. So that's part of the reason, is they understand there's a policy need to do this. And look, if for some reason in the next few days we hear that there are actually Democrats being contacted by Republicans and starting to work with them on some solutions, that would certainly be one way forward. We heard the minority leader in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, say today, look, we've been willing to do this. Dozens of my colleagues have reached out to Republicans in the White House saying they want to do this. So long as they don't want to repeal the law and understand that it's permanent but needs to be fixed, we'll work with them. Whether the president and Republicans ever get to that point is unclear, given how intractable they've been on so many other issues. I would be kind of stunned, frankly, if suddenly Republicans were conceding that the law isn't going anywhere, it just needs to be fixed, after 7 years of saying they want to get rid of it.
All right, Ed O'Keefe on Capitol Hill. Ed, a little birdie tells me it's your birthday, by the way.
It is, yes.
You getting some cake, I hope?
That's my plan. I want home for it, yeah.
All right. Thanks so much for working on your birthday and bringing us the very latest. Really appreciate it.
Take care.